Hi guys, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm talking about my experience reading romance while demisexual. So first of all, I just wanted to say this is 100% my experience with the way that I personally identify myself. I feel that I am hetero, romantic, and demisexual. I do not experience sexual attraction in a way that a lot of people do, and it only happens after I have made a connection with somebody, have developed a relationship with somebody, and I just sort of wanted to sit down and casually discuss my experience, my preferences, and that kind of thing with reading romance novels, especially since I do read quite a bit. A lot of my favorite books of 2020 do fall in the romance category, and because I wanted this to be sort of casual, I'm going to be painting my nails while I do this just because I've been wanting to try this out. But this is a nail polish that I got off of Etsy, and it's called Garrus, which, if you know me or if you know Mass Effect, he is my absolute favorite character from the Mass Effect games. He is also a romance option, and I absolutely love him as a romance. The Etsy store that I did purchase it from is Dragonsworn, and here's all the information from that as well. I will leave it linked down below, and it's a very, very pretty, like, silvery blue color, so I'm very excited for that. But yeah, I'm going to be painting my nails while we talk. The reason I decided to do this video, I wanted to do it last year, mostly just because I, like I said before, have been reading a lot of romance. And I feel like I've always read books with romance, not necessarily just specific romance, but I do really love romance in books. And I wanted to do this video sometime last year. I want to say it was near the end of last year, like August, September, October, and I decided it would actually be better to wait until closer to Valentine's Day. So tomorrow, the day after you're seeing this video, will be Valentine's Day, and that's the whole reason I wanted to do this. So like I said before, I do identify as demisexual. I do not have the same feelings and thoughts about sex as a heterosexual would. However, I'm also not like gay or bi or pan. I am very much a hetero romantic person, at least as far as my experiences so far. So I do feel like I end up picking up romances with male love interests more than female love interests. Although I did read Mangoes and Mistletoe by Adriana Herrera closer to Christmas time this year and really, really enjoyed that. And I do feel like I've read books lately, or in general, that do have sapphic romance elements to them, but they're not specific romances. But I'm also very excited about some sapphic romances or books with sapphic romance that are coming out in 2021. Like, I definitely have to get my hands on Honey Girl. I am so excited for that. So I do want to say that I read all different couples of romance. I've also read some polyamorous stories or reverse harem stories, however you want to describe it that way, but I do find myself drawn more on a personal level to male love interests. But the main reason I wanted to talk about this, and I'm gonna ramble because I'm a spontaneous filmer, I feel like I always ramble on these talking videos, is because I feel like I definitely need more romance in a book, more character-driven feelings than sex. So I know that there are some people out there who definitely love sex scenes in books. And I'm not saying that I don't like a good sex scene or I don't want sex scenes in books, but it is not a necessity for me. I definitely prefer slow burn, pining, sometimes angst even. Like, I just want to feel a connection to the characters. And I do also want to feel connection to the female character as well. So if there's anybody in a book, main character, love interest, or otherwise, that I do not feel a connection to, I'm less likely to rate the book high. But also that can mean that I dislike sex scenes when they come in too early. I definitely need some sort of connection to the characters before I want the sex to happen. Or there are some books, even adult books or new adult books, where the sex scenes fade to black And again, I don't mind that. I'm never somebody that's going to be like, I need to have the sex and the smut on the page. And part of the reason I did want to talk about this is because with me reading more and more romances, I have figured out more of what I'm comfortable with, I guess I should say. It's not necessarily even that things that I like or don't like, because I have loved some books that have sex scenes in them, even quite early. And I have disliked some books that didn't have enough character-driven and didn't have sex scenes either. But one example that I was talking to my husband about the other day is I was reading 2 books this month that both had similar themes and tropes. So the whole fated mate sort of thing, insta-love, or I guess insta-lust in some points. And both of these books are paranormal romance. One was vampires, one was werewolves or shifters, and I disliked one so much, and then the other one I feel like was done much better. It's still not my favorite, mostly because I'm not connecting to why our heroine likes the hero, because he's just getting on my nerves. But one thing that I had noticed really was, I guess, what I would consider character-wise for me personally. So in one of the books that I really just did not like, our main guy character, any time he thought of the woman in the book, all he considered about her was if she was fuckable. So what her breast size was, how she looked in certain outfits, and to me, that's not romance. Yes, I mean, obviously you want to have a healthy sex life if sex is something that you're into, because like being Demi, I can understand why some asexual people are sex repulsed, that kind of stuff. You do not have to have sex with your partner, obviously, but having a character where that is their complete focus, and I don't know if it's because a lot of these books that have this happen sometimes are written by a female author, and they just feel like male characters have to want sex all the time, but it's very demeaning to me when the only point of view that you get from these male characters is how a woman looks, how fuckable they think she is, and nothing about her as a person besides her body or anything like that. So I definitely prefer when the characters focus on characterization, when they fall in love with the other person for who they are. Again, obviously sex is probably going to happen in romance books, but I definitely want that characterization, that stuff first. Don't just think of them as like walking sex on a stick, you know? So for me, that is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that connection between characters. I personally want to fall in love with the characters in the book. I think that's also probably why I gravitate a little bit more, especially in romance, to first person, mostly because you get to hear the actual thoughts of our main character. And if it's a first person point of view, I want it to be the female character. I have not read very many books that have first person point of view in romance that do multiple points of view, where you have the guy's point of view, like you're in his head, because it almost always has the author focusing on sex. Like, I don't want that. So give me the first person point of view from the female and let me experience her thoughts that way. I don't think I ever self-insert into books, because I know this was something that popped up on Twitter recently. I don't think I self-insert into books, but I definitely want to learn about them from their head and experience why they're falling in love. Like, I want to know what they see in the guy character. If you're going to give me multiple points of view where we also have the guy character, I want to do the same thing. Give me reasons why they're falling in love. For me, a romance is about that. It's the act of falling in love, and the whole plot of the story basically is that. I want to say, if we were going to talk about character-driven stories versus plot-driven stories, romances are usually character-driven for me personally. I want the characters and their motivations and them being people to push the plot forward for what we have. Because I don't think a lot of romances have a very specific plot where they're going on a quest or something. Now, we can get into the whole like fantasy romance, that kind of thing, where you usually do have a whole plot. but a lot of romances I feel like are character driven, so I want them to be the focus of the story. And I feel like I'm rambling so much. I knew that was gonna happen. This is just a casual discussion of stuff I like in romance, I guess, or my experience. One thing that also, I guess, goes hand in hand with the whole sex in books, because again, I don't mind, especially once we get to know the characters, but I don't want the sex in books to be your selling point of your books. Now, this doesn't happen a whole lot. However, I have definitely seen it firsthand in a group on Facebook that I'm in, which I actually don't even know if I'm in it anymore because I hardly ever go on Facebook, but we had like independent published, self-published authors in this group, and I believe it was mostly a polyamorous reverse harem group, and at first it started off where that type of story wasn't that big, and so I feel like when people were pushing their story and trying to promote it, we got a lot of actual story, or they would at least try to tell you like sort of what the book is about, and we had either a plot or, you know, something more than just characters fuck. And that's sort of what it turned into after a couple years of being in that group. A lot of the times the promotional material or the like graphics that they put up on the group to promote, oh, I have a new book, and it would have like the cover and the author, the excerpts that they would take out to promote what this book was about would just be sexy time moments, and it would be talk about the hero like actually having sex with the heroine, or it would talk about like dirty talk, or how the hero sees the heroine, because again, guys only think about sex, or it would be some sort of like funny dialogue of the heroine joking with the hero about sex. Like, it would be that. And the thing is, based on these promotions that these authors would put out, would not be able to tell you a single thing about what the book was actually about. Whereas like Honey Girl, that I'm expecting to come out, I think it's already released so far in February, but I haven't gone to the bookstore yet. I can tell you that it is about a woman who goes to Las Vegas and somehow drunk marries another woman, and it's now like an accidental marriage, and she has to go, I think, with her to New York and figure that out. And like, I'm very, very excited to see these two women do this. But when I have a promotion from a Facebook group where it's literally just, here is part of a sex scene, I don't know what the book is about. I have no idea except for sex. Like, sex does not sell it for me. And the thing is, I'm obviously in a minority because a lot of people from these groups go wild with those kind of promotions. But again, it's just not the thing that interests me. If you had excerpts of like your hero saving puppies, or your hero being nerdy, or your hero like expressing what makes them unique or lovable or anything like that, like that would sell me more, even though I technically wouldn't know what the story was about. But yeah, I'm doing a horrible job here of painting my nails. One, it's been forever since I did paint them. Like, I think the last time I painted my nails might have been before Presley was born, but also I'm not fully paying attention. So it's not horrible. I'm loving the color, but I have definitely gone outside the lines a lot on this. But yeah, this is probably a longer video than I really expected it to be. I'm glad you guys decided to join me for this. I'm very curious to see what you feel like a romance novel should be. So I guess for me, my perfect romance would be probably first person point of view, slow burn, potentially mutual pining. We don't really have to have that. I just want something like that, friends to lovers, or, you know, at least some sort of progression of the relationship where it's not insta love or insta lust or a one night stand or a surprise pregnancy, because I just read a book like that, and we'll talk about that in my wrap up. But I definitely want all the feels first. So some of my favorite romances that I've read in the last couple years, I know we have talked about some of the ones in my like best books of 2020, which obviously include like Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, which again, They have sex, but there's so much progression of the relationship in there. Well Met by Jen DeLuca. Again, eventually they do have sex. We have Strangelove by Anne Aguirre. This is a sci-fi romance, so I feel like it's very dual with the sci-fi and the romance. We have a full-on plot of like a Hunger Games Bachelor sort of thing, because the romance is very integral to it. And we have sex, but again, you're really getting the characters first. Not last year, but I think the year before, I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, and that one is so good. It's like a new adult going into adult romance, but all of the sex scenes are more of what the characters feel emotionally during the sex scene. Like, it's not a like play-by-play of actual sex acts. It is how they feel during the sex about their relationship. Like, it was so refreshing to see that for me personally. Also, spoiler alert by Olivia Dade. Like, again, I think I'm just like rehashing all of my favorites from 2020. I will leave that video linked down below in case you're interested, just because of the fact that like I talked about these romances in depth, because I really did love a lot of romances. But I'm sure there's quite a bit that I read that I didn't like as much either. I already DNF'd a romance book this month just because it was definitely not romance, more than probably leaning into the smut erotic sort of zone. But yeah, like I said, my nails, again, color's great. This is definitely a Garris color. I did not do the best job painting them, but that's what happens. I hope you guys like this video and understand a little bit more of like, I guess, what I do or how I feel when I rate romances. I will always discuss what I liked or didn't like about romance books when I read them, because I definitely have been reading a whole lot more. I have a lot more that I have on my TBR that I want to read, but I'm never going to be that person who wants to read a book because of sex scenes. And a lot of the times, if the sex scenes come a little bit too early for me personally, it can take me out of the story if I haven't gotten to know your characters or gotten invested in the characters' lives, because that's just who I am as a person. I don't think about sex in general with anybody besides my husband. I've never really understood how people have such a high sex drive that they just need sex more often or think about sex more often. And again, I know that's because I do identify as demisexual. I've had a lot of time to consider that. I'm 31 years old, and I didn't really realize that was a thing until at least like, what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago? I'm not entirely sure. But again, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you would like to see more videos. I do have videos up Mondays, Thursdays, and sometimes Saturdays, so I will see you then. Bye!